Have you ever thought about depression as being an escalator? Like, this is how my mind processes it. It's like this escalator that I never really chose to get on. And yet, here I'm on it. I don't know when it happened or how, but now I'm on this slow downward escalator. And I can't get off of it. And everything in me is turning around and trying to get back up. But the second I think I have it all together and trying to get back up, a new wave of life would come and knock me back down on my butt. And I'm sitting here just heading on down the escalator, trying to figure out like what happened and get my bearings to get back up as fast as I could and try desperately to keep walking back up that escalator. And every time I try to get up, I just get knocked back down. Blending families, miscarriages, depression, health issue after health issue, death of family members. Every time I got back up, I got knocked back down. And eventually, after almost a decade, I found myself with the last straw, which was when my husband of almost 10 years, then he was done. And he didn't want to do this anymore. The one I thought I was going to be spending forever with couldn't even stand to look at me anymore. And I found myself riding down this escalator that I was already almost at the bottom of mentally. And it was finally there at the bottom of that escalator that I had two choices. Because I couldn't do it anymore. I looked up. There was no way I was getting back to the top of that escalator on my own. I couldn't do it. My resources were exhausted. I had nothing left to give. And it was in that moment I had a decision to make. And I was either going to check out and be done and stop fighting, or I needed someone to save me because I couldn't do it anymore. And it was in that moment that I met Jesus. And it was in that moment that he picked me up and started walking me back to the top of the escalator. It has not been an easy 2.5 years. It has not. And God requires work on our part. But it was in that moment, sitting at the bottom of the elevator, even though I was a Christian and have known about God my whole life, that he became real to me. And it was in that moment I couldn't deny that there was a God. It was in that moment he became my Savior. And it was in that moment that I knew the whole world had to know about him. As if he could take me from the bottom of that escalator and give me hope, knowing the things that ran through my head, knowing the letters that I wrote, knowing the things that I thought, knowing the worthlessness that I felt. If he could take me from there back to the top of the escalator and get me off the ride, and he could do anything. And he can do anything for you on the other side of the screen. I want you to know that God. That is the God I serve. And the God that listened to me cry guttural cries in the middle of the night and held me still. I did not feel alone. And I know that is the weirdest thing to express to someone, because I absolutely was alone for the first time in a very long time in my life. And yet I never felt alone. And he held my hand as I processed through the mental aspects of everything and why I had given up and all of the junk that I needed to process. Why I always felt the need to be perfect. Why I was like super type A and needed to like prove my self-worth to people. Why I wanted to make myself look like something I wasn't. why I wore a mask all the time, whether it was makeup and hair or the stories I told about my life, even though that really wasn't what was going on in my life. God had to break all of those walls. And he was willing to sit at the bottom of that escalator and then walk me back up it, step by step by step. So if you're seeing this and you're sitting at the bottom of that escalator and you want to get off this ride and you feel like you have no other options, I pray that you'll give God a chance. Because if you'll just call out to him, it says in the Bible, anyone who calls his name, he will come. And he will sit at the bottom of the elevator until you're ready to get up, and he will walk it with you back up, and then he'll take you completely off the ride. I never thought I'd be rid of the underlying depression that I had dealt with a lot of my life, especially through a lot of my medical issues. I was sick for over a decade of my life, and I don't have perfect health. I'm not admitting to that, but it is way better than it was. But he's that God. He wants to know, he knows your story, but he wants you to call out your story. He wants you to trust him. And he just wants to be there. And he wants you to know you're absolutely never alone. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. So if you are in that place, you're having the thoughts that I had, and you're having to make the decision that I had, I pray before you make a permanent decision that you'll just try God, because he is that God. That is who he is. And I will spend the rest of my life telling people about him, because he's that God, the one that gives hope to the hopeless, the one that loves the unlovable. He is the God of the universe and the God of salvation. And I want so desperately for all the people that are hurting and alone in this world to understand that's not the truth. That's a lie that the enemy has fed you. And God's there. Just call upon him. He wants to be there for you. I hope this helps somebody tonight. Talk to you later.